Capri Theater started in 1941. It was built as the Clover Theater. In 1962, after going through many different owners and various operations, it was converted into the Capri Theater in December of 1962 and operated that way until now. I'm Martin McCaffrey. I'm the director of the Capri Theater in Montgomery, Alabama. I've been the director here since November of 1985. In the interior, it's more or less the same. We put the soundful curtains up. That's for acoustic properties. When the theater was built, it had what the blueprints show as acoustic plaster. Well, the acoustic part of the acoustic plaster was asbestos. And so that's one of the reasons we can't do a new theater up there, because it would cost us a whole lot to get that abated. When we had the remodeling done, we had to pay, I think, $60,000 for asbestos abatement just to have a strip done behind these walls so we could do the electrics. These are the original light fixtures, not the original emergency lights. Those are an add-on. The decal's the same. The striping is the same. The stage is from 1983. And if you look at the floor here in front of me, you can see these marks where seats used to be. And the seats went way up past where the stage is now. So we currently have about a little over 200 seats downstairs. Before we remodeled, we had 385 down here, not counting this stuff. So at some point, these were removed. We remodeled and removed, 185 seats here. So there's much fewer seats than when it was the Clover, fewer seats than when it was the original Capri. We don't fill the house on a regular basis, so we're pretty good with that. Colors are not original. It was originally a burgundy and yellow combination. I have no color pictures. I just have the opening days descriptions. It said it had a silver curtain, which would have been odd, but that's okay. The screen's different from 1941 because the film aspect ratio is there. In 1941, you had 1:3:3 to 1. You had a basically square picture, and so you had a square screen. Now picture is rectangle. You can fit in, 185, 239, and you're using video, so let's say 178 or something. Don't do this in scope. That's silly. Don't letterbox, okay? Those of you at home with your TVs, you're used to seeing things letterbox and going, why isn't it filling my screen? And then you can hit a button and you can have everybody stretched out and it fills the screen. Don't do that. Hospitals and hotels have those, and you can't do anything about it, and it's just really annoying. Because we can't go wider for CinemaScope, we have to go smaller, and so the equivalent of letterboxing. So CinemaScope, which is supposed to be the big CinemaScope, now in wide, ultra-wide screen, well, you get a smaller picture here, and in lots of old theaters because of the proscenium being a fixed thing that either blow it out, or if you have millions of dollars like the AFI did up in Silver Spring, they took the old Silver Spring Theater and they mechanicized it, and the proscenium can open. We're not doing that here, but the design is the same. It's an Art Deco design, late Deco. This is almost generic small theater, 1941. The selection process is to see what we want, see if we can get it, and then fill in the blanks. There's more blanks than things we can get. So we are a calendar house. We announce beforehand what we're showing when. We have a single screen, so we can show one movie at a time, so it is more advantageous to us sort of, to book a bunch of films in advance and print a calendar of what's coming and telling people, sending that out and letting people know so they can plan and they can be there. Regular movie theaters book a film open-ended. So you have 16 screens, you run it until you find something that will make more money there or doesn't. 5 movies come out on the same day or available to us at the same time. We can't show them all when they come out, so we have to decide. I look for some of those, what I think will be successful, and get that locked in. And then we say, well, that one's been sitting around a while. That one looks interesting. Let's put that in there. Oh, here's an interesting new director. Here's an interesting French film. Here's an interesting whatever. Or I've got to do the schedule this week. Here's the first distributor to say yes. And that's generally our selection process. We have things like the classic series where once a month we show an oldie. An old movie to me is, 50s or 60s. An old movie to the general viewing public is Grease. They really like their sing-along Grease. So we'll do some of those on a regular basis, like we're doing It's a Wonderful Life next week. We do that every Christmas. And then there's the rentals and the special events and everything else. Those are all worked through me, and we book those in. So, like I said, with two full-time people, one person does a lot here. The theater was built in 1941. Most theaters in Montgomery at that time were either black theaters or white theaters. And it's very hard to research them because the black theaters, for most part, were not mentioned in the white newspaper, and the black newspapers were not too many of. Cloverdale once was a separate suburb. By 1941, it had been incorporated into Montgomery, but this was the far reaches of town, so there's really not a commercial opportunity or reason to build two separate theaters. So they did what many theaters in the South and many theaters in the North actually did, was to build a separate entrance and then have the balcony reserved for the African American attendees. However, on the opening day of the theater, it said the balcony will not be open. And I don't know specifically what happened, but I suspect that the neighbors found out, because the Tuesday before it opened, they just, opening, regular tickets, balcony tickets are this price, and everybody knows the code then, that having separate price balcony tickets meant that it was segregated, the segregated section. By Friday, the balcony will not be open. I don't know when they reopened it, but there are plenty of stories I've heard over the years of, people with their maids bringing them to the theater and the maids sitting upstairs and the kids sitting down here. It happened eventually. I don't know when or what pushed it. It was, probably pretty soon after. So the alley outside is the entrance to there, and then that leads up to the balcony. There used to be a separate ticket box and a men's room and ladies' room, and that's in an area that is directly over my office and about the size of my office. In 1983, the Capri Community Film Society was formed to take over the Capri Theater. It was being operated at the time by the Martin chain, which became the Carmike chain. And they were running it as a softcore porno theater and just running out the time on their lease. Jimmy Evans, then a district attorney for Montgomery, decided he was going to crack down on pornography, and so he raided the theater. Now, it was an ultra softcore porn theater. You could probably see much raunchier stuff on cable these days, but it was the Martin chain's opportunity to get out of it. It was the Capri Community Film Society's opportunity to take it over, and so things were worked out, and they did. But yeah, it got branded as an adult theater, even though that particular period it was an adult theater. It was like 8 months. And as I said, ultra softcore porn and all of that. But anyway, it got that reputation. And that stuck around for quite a while. I don't know why particularly, other than no other theater in Montgomery had chose to do that full time. Several years ago, a reporter from WSFA came here to do some story on the Capri. So I was telling him about the history of the Capri, and he was probably in his early 20s, and then we were a porno theater. He said, why would people go to a movie theater to see porno? Well, the internet wasn't invented then, and so I think the whole concept of an adult theater has now totally vanished from most people's minds, just the whole concept. I've been involved in the movie theater business since 1974 when I was an usher. I was an usher in a 1,000-seat theater that showed almost nothing but Disney movies and would sell out on a regular basis. People under 4 feet tall. And we would literally clean the lobby with a snow shovel. That's how bad that. I love children, so we have our children's shows in the summer. And I'm not sure. It's just been part of my life, and I've been in the business all my adult and a little bit before adult life, and I guess I'm going to die here too. So this is your warning to flee this business. I can't get hired anywhere at this point. I'm 63 years old, I'm doomed. My employment history, I was an usher, I became a projectionist. I was a projectionist in DC for 9 years. A friend of mine moved down to Montgomery to work at Southern Poverty Law Center for a couple years. I came down to visit. She brought me to the Capri Theater Gala, the second annual gala, to Capri, and I just started pointing out everything that was wrong. A group of people, a small group of conniving people, hey, he knows something about movies. He knows something about movie theaters. We need to get him employed. Because my predecessor was, she and her husband were moving, and so the job was open. And I was bored with what I was doing. Warning, don't get bored with your job and take a 50% pay cut and move to Montgomery. I got bored with my job. I took a 50% pay cut and moved to Montgomery. And as I said, my first call was from a bill collector, because one thing they didn't know how to do was do the books. They rejected me at first. Then they hired me, they split the job in two, and me and another person. That other person left before I got down here, so I didn't get her pay, but it's a sad, silly story. But so I've been here. I moved down when I was 27. Yeah, I was only going to be here a couple years. As much as I love movies, it's very painful in Montgomery to go to movies. I do not get to go to movies as much as I like to. Partly because of the job, partly because it's just unpleasant. I don't like watching movies on TV either. I watch bad movies on TV. That's what TV is for, or movies I don't care about. And I've been watching a lot of those in the last 8 months. Now, really, how did the Avengers make all that money? We are an art house theater, not a commercial theater. So we show foreign films, independent films, documentaries, the other movies people don't want to see. We continue to be just a movie theater. We do other things, but we're just a movie theater. And there's other just a movie theaters around all over. We don't really consider ourselves competing with AMC or anything. There's been a lot of chains here. A lot of chains have come through. And we've outlasted them all because we really know how to lose money. I think we're cockroaches to them. They don't care, Yeah, I think of it all as restaurants. It's really, I compare it to restaurants, is that, AMC is a national chain. You're going to get pretty much the same thing everywhere you go. You will be able to see those major motion pictures everywhere you go. There's something to be said for that. But local theaters have a personality. McDonald's and AMC do not have a personality. They may have identifying characteristics, but they don't have a personality. So I think that, there's that local connection, there's a local feel of community. Even if you don't come to the movies, it's there. Say reproduction's one of our biggest problems. They come, they have babies, we don't see them for 7 to 10 years. But then it's there when they come back, and we're there, and welcome back. Maybe they send their kids to the kids shows in the summer. So it's that sense of community, the sense of history, and the knowledge that we're not just here to take their money. We do want to take their money, but that's not our purpose. We just like taking their money. How many generations of people have come here? How many, their whole lives the Capri Theater has been here. So there's that weird emotional connect that even if we hadn't had influence outside of Cloverdale or Montgomery, would still be there. That's why there's historic building preservation. That's why. So there's just that impact, that bit of solidity that certainly has helped Cloverdale. For instance, when I first got here, we didn't have these restaurants. There was nothing open at night on the streets. The parking was fabulous. But now, it's a quasi-happening place. So that stability, that presence of the Capri Theater, just alone, not whatever we do or anything, that there's just not this big empty hole in the middle of Cloverdale. But the fact that it's here, that there is something that defies the cliche of a backwards southern town. And I think Montgomery over the years has certainly grown out of that image, at least to those who know Montgomery. People have said, Capri was very important in them moving here. Capri is very important for them to be around. Capri is important for them to bring their children to. So I think that's the more important way that Capri has been a agent of change in Montgomery than necessarily what we show and what we do. What we show and what we do allows us to continue to be here, but it's the overall presence that is really, I think, the biggest effect we have on Montgomery and Cloverdale. The importance of film as an art form is the importance of any art form as an art form. It is a form of expression. Art is a form of storytelling. There are things you can do in film that you can't do with a play, you can't do with a book, you can't do with a painting. And that is what raises it to an art form, and being an art form, that makes it important. All art forms are equally important. All pieces of art aren't, but all art forms are, because they are the basic expressions of human beings. Art as free speech. Well, that has, in the history of motion pictures, that's always been a big question, because film, certainly from the beginning, and you look at the beginning of the film industry, what we now call studios and distributors were called manufacturers. It was considered a commodity, it was treated as a commodity, and therefore did not have any protection. And of course, not much had free speech protection in the early 1900s. But as the industry progressed and as the 20th century progressed, it still did not quite have that free speech protection or understanding about it, because it was still considered a commodity. Books are a commodity, but books are something sacred, movies are something commercial. So starting about the 50s, this started changing, because in those days, cities had censorship bureaus, states had censorship bureaus. The Maryland Censorship Bureau lasted until, I think, the early 80s. And it was porno would start bringing lawsuits saying we have a First Amendment right. Films would get shut down or banned mostly in the South for racial reasons, not sexual reasons. It evolved in the 60s. It began 60s and early 70s. Film started to have full free speech rights, and that was affected by the 50s and early 60s. The foreign films starting to come in, the art films. Those were the ones who broke the way through that. In the early mid 70s, whenever Last Tango in Paris came out, Jimmy Evans decided that the Capri Theater, long before us, wasn't going to be allowed to show Last Tango in Paris. And the then landlord took Jimmy Evans all the way to the Alabama Supreme Court, which said, yeah, they have a right to show it. Now, you can probably bust them afterwards, but you can't stop them from showing it. How it all relates to the free speech is, yeah, people can make movies about the subjects they want to. Some of those subjects involve sex. Those subjects also involve sexual preference. They involve race. It involves ideology. It involves everything, because it is what people who make movies want to deal with. They don't all want to deal with run, fight superhero movies, as much fun as some people find that. They want to do things that may upset people. They want to do things that will entertain people. It's just as emotionally valid to be depressed by a movie as to be happy by a movie, as long as that's what they're trying to achieve. If you're being depressed by what is supposed to be a happy movie, the filmmaker failed. But the idea that the law, the state, the government will tell people you can't discuss this, you can't deal with this. Most of the stuff being dealt with is crap, but It's their right to make crap, just as their right to make good stuff. And not everybody agrees with me about what crap is. And I don't try to stop people from coming. I will harangue them on the way out about how bad the movie was, but that's it. That's what free speech is all about. That is what the First Amendment is all about. It's about the idea of having objectionable views about things that other people find objectionable. You know, having a bad attitude towards sex is not a reason for the cops to come in. Having a bad attitude towards race, either way, is not a reason for the cops to come in. It's just, free speech just means there's not a reason for the cops to be here. And that's what we try to promote. The Capri is a nonprofit organization, and it exists because people are willing to donate money to keep us going. If you'd like to support the Capri by becoming a member or sending donations or just coming to see the movies, certainly give us a call at 334-262-4858. We are on the web at capritheater.org, and that's theater with an R-E, and or hunt us down on Facebook. Any of those will get you to us. We would love to have your support. We hope you'll come and see a movie at the Capri. One more rant. Okay, why do we spell Capri Theater with an R-E? Because that's how it was on the marquee when we got it. But doesn't R-E mean it's a live action theater? No, it does not. You look at the history of that word, and it is used interchangeably. I have ads for movie theaters where it's used interchangeably within the ad. R-E or E-R, it does not make a difference. I don't know who decided that this was the standard spelling. Screw them. It's R-E because that's how we got it. It would have been E-R if it had been spelled the other way. It doesn't mean anything. Your English lesson for today.
That's good to know because I have heard that before. So
It's bullshit.